Good morning, it's that time again, Feedback Friday, and today we're going to be talking about what's your purpose for chatting and perhaps why you're not getting what you want. I'm just going to pop this banner at the bottom because I asked my husband this question last night, what should we do this evening? And I was so setting him and us up to fail, and I want to talk about that today, but also in the context of you just being, checking with yourself, what's your purpose? So let's just take that off for a minute. One of the things that I talk about a lot with my clients is that their purpose for chatting to me as their coach is to listen to what they're actually saying and check that they mean what they say. Then they say what they actually mean, and that they're not being mean. They're not in drama. They're not persecuting. They're not putting themselves down. They're not putting other people down. They're not in victim, feeling like there's nothing they can do about it. And they're not a rescuer. They're not just doing it to try and keep other people happy, not pleasing other people. They're actually saying what they mean. But what I discovered over the years is that when they were working with me, obviously that we knew that we had that contract, and so they would say what I'd ask the question, what would you like to happen? They would answer. I'd repeat their words back to them, and invariably, what would happen is that they'd get clarity of what they wanted, and they would be saying what they meant, and they meant what they said, and they were getting to learn how to say it without being in drama, without persecuting or victiming or rescuing. And that often, because they got that clarity, would mean that when they left the session, they would go and talk to people, and they would say what they meant. Sometimes people would misunderstand what they said, but they could, because they had absolute clarity of what they meant by what they said, they could communicate with this person to clarify what their meaning was, and often that would result in them getting what they wanted. However, I started to get really curious about what was the difference between the people who did what they said they were going to do and those who didn't. And the biggest difference was that the people who had clarity of what they wanted, they were talking about what they wanted rather than what they didn't want, first and foremost. Secondly, when they either didn't need the approval of other people, so they could just take action without having to have a conversation, or if they were going to have a conversation with people, they were so confident in their decision, they were so absolutely sure of what they decided, that even if people didn't agree with them or ask questions and challenge them, they were really able to just stick by their decision and make that decision. And so over the years, I started getting really curious about what was the difference, what gave somebody real confidence in their decision and what didn't. And what started to become really apparent was actually how people were making their decision in the first place. So if the person had made the decision and they absolutely knew it was the right thing for them, they were more likely to be confident when challenged or questioned. However, when I started to really listen, people would start to say, oh, well, maybe I haven't made a very good decision. Maybe it's not the right decision. Perhaps that's all I shouldn't have done. And so we started to get really curious about, well, how did you actually make the decision? What was the process you went through? And what I discovered my clients did, and also myself when I started modeling my own model, I was like, oh my gosh, the decision had been made based on what everybody else in my life wanted, about what kept everybody else happy. It was about keeping the peace. And it didn't include what I needed and what they needed to work, learn and live at our best. So we were compromising our own health and well-being, our own efficiency, our own effectiveness. We were changing and adapting our plans to please other people. And so even when we asked ourselves, what would we like to have happen? It was already filtered by what other people wanted. Which brings me back to the question. Good morning, whoever's with me, please say hello. That'd be great to know you're here. It brings me back to the question that I asked my husband yesterday. So generally speaking, I'm the planner in the family, and I like to do different things. Mark's quite consistent, and I say that with, he's consistent, he's reliable, he likes routine, and that's one of his. He grounds me. He isn't someone that's all flighty and always changing his mind. He kind of likes repetition, whereas I get quite bored with repetition, and therefore one of the things I have to learn is to be more disciplined and keep doing things consistently until they get the result. Whereas Mark is like, once he's decided to do it, he just keeps going. So that's his strength, and it can be his nemesis when he doesn't change, when he needs to change sooner. And equally with me, my flexibility and ability to change is my strength, but it becomes my nemesis when I really need to keep going for longer until the thing has finished, which is a great example of my book. So yesterday, and one of the things that's an ongoing thing in our relationship is I will say, oh, I can't stand watching telly, I get so bored watching telly, I need to do something else, I want something different to do. So last night I asked him the question, what shall we do this evening? And the reason why it's setting him up to fail is because the we kind of infers it's what we would like to do together, rather than what would you like to do this evening, which I kind of already know the answer. He quite likes to have his dinner and then sit and watch telly. He's quite happy with that routine. But equally, if I said to him, I'd like to go for a walk, would you like to come with me? He's quite happy to join me. What he doesn't want to do, generally after a day of programming and computer challenges and stresses, is he doesn't want to have to think or come up with ideas or problem solve. He just wants to be able to just do. So if I say, we're going out for dinner with so-and-so, he'll go, oh, okay, and he'll quite happily go with the flow. However, last night, I had quite a day with my book. It wasn't quite going as I'd like it to. I was feeling a bit restless and a bit sort of agitated. So I was saying to him, what shall we do tonight? Because I knew I didn't want to do TV, but I didn't know what I did want to do. And so we repeated a pattern that's familiar to us. So he then comes up with some ideas and I'm going, oh no, I don't want that one, I don't want that one. So in the end, what I did is I walked out the house, got in the car and drove around the block. Now in the past, that would have been a case of like storming. So those that just arrived, I'm just going to pop the banner up, is good morning. Just putting the banner up. This is the thing that happened last night. And I'm just talking about why asking the question of my husband, what should we do this evening, was really setting him up to fail. Now in the past, what was happening for me, now when I reflect on it and I do my feedback, is that basically I knew I didn't want to watch TV, but I didn't know what I wanted to do instead. And so intuitively I knew I wanted something, and then he was saying things and pulling faces or doing whatever he was doing, and it wasn't giving me the feedback that said, yes, that's what I want to do. And so I was getting agitated, and it would have been very easy, and I have done in the past, go, oh, you don't understand, you don't listen, you know I don't like watching TV, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd have stormed out in a right strop. Whereas I caught myself in that moment and went, actually, we're in that space now where I don't actually know what I want, and I'm expecting him to be a mind reader. I'm expecting him to be able to guess what it is that I need and want. And as I don't actually know what I need and want, he's on a sure thing that he's going to fail. I'm setting him up to fail rather than success. So I just left the house very quietly, took the car, I went for a drive about 5 or 6 minutes, and one of the things that I did want, and I knew because I kind of was pushing myself to go out, was I needed to get out of the house. Now, what was interesting as I did this process is the other thing that I was battling with is I fancied going for a Costa coffee and having a millionaire shortbread, and I had been committing not to eating carbs and sugar after midday. And so now I was in a bit of a like, I really want a Costa coffee, but I don't want to eat it after this day. So what was really going on for me is that I knew what I didn't want, I knew what I wanted, but I also knew that that was a behaviour I was trying to change. And so I'm in the middle of a changing of a behaviour. And because my brain was tired and I was frustrated, my brain wanted to go into the easy route, and I was feeling a bit unsettled. And so actually what I really needed to do was get out of the house, and I was running on an old programme, an old pattern of going to Costa's. Now I have to confess, I drove around the block. I then rang my husband and said, would you like to go on a date with me? And he said yes. And we got in the car and we did drive to Costa's, and I did have a hot chocolate and I did have a millionaire shortbread. And I'm okay with that decision. But on reflection, what I realise, and we talked about it later, is that when I'm doing something that's really stretching me, like writing the book, when I'm going through lots of change, I need to do a bit more planning in the evenings. Because reasons I've gone writing retreats is because the evenings are planned for us. I know that we're going to go for a meal. I know that we're going to have these discussions. I know we're going to go for these walks with the groups. I don't have to do any more planning when I go on a retreat. It's all taken care of for me. My brain hasn't got to think about what other people need for dinner, or whether I need to do the shopping, etc. My brain can just be in the writing mode. And obviously I can't go on a writing retreat currently And therefore I was working to create that environment at home. And so one of the things I said to Mark is, what I realised I need to do while I'm really pushing through to get the book finished, I'm going to need to have not just a plan for what we're going to eat, but I need to have a plan for what I'm going to do. So I'm either going to write down that I'm going to paint tonight, or I'm going to read tonight, or I'm going to watch TV tonight, because it doesn't work for me to have to make another decision in the evening when my brain is already trying to do new things. So I want you to think about, your purpose for chatting. Over the years of working with people, the reason why we don't get what we say, what we want, is because we're not saying what we want, we're dropping hints, we're talking about what we don't want, and we're not actually talking with clarity about what we do want. And the second reason we don't get it is because when it's challenged or somebody asks questions about it, we can lose confidence in it. And for me, one of my triggers always is that my overriding factor is often that I want to spend time with my husband. I want to be with him. But usually it's the activity that we're doing that needs to change for me to be okay. And if I talk with clarity and say, right, I want to go for a walk, I'm going to go for an hour, Mark is really confident enough to go, yeah, I'll come with you today, or no, he won't. He'll just let me go. But what used to happen when I wasn't confident that I needed to go for a walk, if he didn't want to go for a walk, I would just sit and watch telly. And so when I've got really confident that actually going for a walk was really important and that's what I needed to do, even if he didn't come with me, I'd go, right, okay, well, I'll go for my walk now and I'll meet you in half an hour, 45 minutes. So if you don't have confidence in yourself as to why you want what you want, then when other people challenge you, you're likely to change your plans, you're to change what you're doing. And for me, what I've realised is that one of my overriding factors always is that if I spent the whole day on my own in the business, I'm quite likely to want to have companionship in the evening. If I've been really, really busy with lots of people, lots of networking during the day, I probably would like some more alone time in the evening. And so what I now know is, because I know how I work, learn and live at my best, I know that if I ask Mark to go for a walk, I will know him my own sort of system. Is this a walk because I need fresh air and I just want to get outside? Or is this because I need some alone time? And sometimes I'll say I'm going for a walk and I don't want any company. I need to go on my own because I need to decompress from loads of people before I can be with people again in the evenings. So one of the reasons we need to get really clear on the reason we're talking is because we chat, we then get a response from somebody else and we don't like the response, and then we criticize them for the way that they've responded, but actually we didn't even know what our purpose was. And I was talking to Mark this morning and I said to him, I think what the reason is, if he said to me, well, I want to watch TV like normal, what would you like to have happen? I could only have told him at the moment, I want to do something different. And if he'd said to me, or what kind of different, and he'd just given me some time to reflect on what I wanted, there's a good chance that either I would have worked out what I wanted, or I would have realised I really didn't know what I wanted, which would explain why I was feeling a bit edgy. And therefore, it wasn't really to do with him. It wasn't his fault that he wasn't being helpful. I really didn't know what I want. So I want to leave you with that thought. What's your purpose for chatting? Any other things you've got this week? Think about your normal feedback questions. What's worked this week? What's not gone so well? What could have worked better? And for me, definitely this week, there's something about confidence to do things on my own. There's a couple of incidences that happened this week, which I won't go into now because it'll take the video run over. But there was an incident with parking in the car park of the dentist on Wednesday that really didn't go so well. And all of that to do with is just being confident in myself and my own abilities. And therefore, if I don't have confidence in my decisions, it's really likely that when I get feedback from people, or a lack of feedback, that it will impact whether I do what I say I was going to do or not. So I hope that's been of use to you today. Have a fantastic weekend. I can't believe it's Friday already, and I'm looking forward to a day of writing. Speak to you all soon.